Game maker Ubisoft is an absolute mess. And if you recall, we have the earnings report coming out on the 30th of October next week. We're going to try to cover that as best we can. Even if we can't do it live, we will be able to cover it that evening on the regular Wednesday live show on the 30th. But Assassin's Creed Shadows has been a particular thorn in their side as of late. It seemed to be the last straw for many investors when Ubisoft officially announced that it would be indeed delayed a full 3 months to fix a bunch of problems that should have been fixed or at least never have been there over the course of many years of development. But I'm not even so sure that the February 14th target will be struck. And we've got to talk about why that is, because next week, during that earnings call, it could be one hell of a wild ride. Renegade Online.
So we come to this. Ubisoft, just before the quiet period ended, as I might remind folks, I predicted this was coming. I told Stuttering Craig this. In fact, I called him the morning this happened, 2 hours before the announcement was made. Ubisoft said our earnings call will be October 30th. The quiet period begins today, September 30th. I said, Craig, side-scrollers, guys, listen. They have to announce this, or actually, I'll take it back. That was on the 25th. They have to announce a delay of Assassin's Creed within the next 5 days. 2 hours later, it happened. There you go. It happened. Now it gets worse. I speculated at the time that the delay of this game to February 14th, which is costing Ubisoft probably millions of dollars a month. Every month this game is delayed. And the pre-sales for this thing were disastrous. And this is one of the big reasons why it was delayed. But the game itself was apparently just as broken, maybe even more broken than Star Wars Outlaws. We remember how big of a failure that was. So they said, we're going to push this game back from November 15th to February 14th or whatever, February 15th, whenever it's releasing. Push it back 90 days. Apparently, they think that they can fix within 90 days what it took them several years to break. Okay. And I've speculated that, well, if that's the case, just like they're trying to do with Star Wars Outlaws, clearly Ubisoft is not relying on the same personnel that they relied on to make the game in the first place. Because if these same idiots could have done a proper job at building a game in the first place over the course of several years, there's probably no way these same goons could fix it within 30 to 60 days. But yet they're telling us that's what's happening with Star Wars Outlaws. They're going to fix all of the massive technical problems with the game. Like I said before, I suspect that Ubisoft has gone outside the house to make sure this is done. And I think there's some evidence out there that seems to suggest that is the case. They're probably doing the same thing here with Assassin's Creed. Of course, they're also dealing with significant numbers of their own employees that are going on strike because Ubisoft had the temerity to ask them to actually show up to work in the office. They wanted to keep working from home. Part of the problem that Ubisoft is having, apart from hiring a bunch of probably whiny, overgrown children to build their games that aren't that talented, I guess, is that they don't actually work in the office. They're all working from home. They're not around each other. Find me a work environment in corporate America where that actually has some type of long-term viable function. It doesn't. And we've seen this time and time again, not just in gaming, but in many other industries, lifting the work from home grace that even places like Amazon were giving employees and stuff like this, and the complaints that would happen after that. It's just a culture of general laziness with modern American younger generations. Then we get this curious story in the last 24 hours. Assassin's Creed Shadows Collector's Edition price drops $50 amid canceled season pass and canceled early access. Something else is going on here. This is very odd. Let's talk about that. This from IGN. The collector's edition of Assassin's Creed Shadows originally included more than it does now, but getting to play AC Shadows on its actual release date of November 12th was one benefit of the collector's edition. Again, 3 days, just 72 hours, 3 days before the main release on November 15th. We're not talking about a week before, 2 weeks before, a month before, 3 months before. Not talking about beta testing. Not really. 3 days. 3 days. Many fans had already committed to paying $280 for this big swag collector's edition, right? Which included a season pass, which is a model that they are navigating away from now, as well as early access to the game. Now, you might say that, all right, they're not going to do a season pass where they add additional downloadable content up front. Maybe they'll add it ad hoc. Okay. You want to remove that. I can see reasons for that. Changing the model. Why are we removing early access? 72 hours. Why are we removing early access to the game if you paid previously for early access, even with the delay, right? So if it's coming out on February 14th, early access, if it continues on, should give it to you on February 10th to 11th, depending on where in the world you are. Why cut that out? Well, let's read on. We all know the story of the inaccuracies that were depicted that some people talked about, not to mention the ridiculousness of the game itself, considering its protagonist. But this delay, let me tell you what I think is going on here. I think this game is going to see another problem. And I think we're going to hear about more problems with this game during the earnings call next week with Ubisoft. Possibly even another delay. They might not announce it there, but I think as we get closer to February, they may be forced to delay it further. This idea that they would retract the early access, this tells me almost with complete certainty, they are absolutely terrified of what audience reaction to this game is going to be. And if they give 10,000 people or 20,000 people or whatever, whoever is going to pony up the money to buy this game early, right? And they're going to be out there on Twitch, on Kick, on YouTube, on Twitter, X, whatever else. Are they afraid of these people having 3 days early access and then basically trashing the game? Because then within the next 72 hours, everybody else that's still waiting to download the game and play it are going to cancel their orders? This doesn't seem to suggest a lot of confidence in this game. I wonder why. Think about when we talk about movies that come out in the box office, right? And we talk about how there are certain embargoes on films. They don't want you talking about it until the day of release or 2 days before release or all this kind of stuff. Why? Because they're typically trying to hide how bad it is, and they know it's bad. They know it's absolute crap, and they're trying to hide it. And the last thing they want is for anybody else to get confirmation of their fears of how bad the product is before it actually comes out, because it's going to sour sales even further. By removing early access, and they can say, okay, we dropped the price $50, and maybe they're going to do some refunds for this. That tells me even more. That tells me that they're really not confident in this game. We're already cutting prices, albeit on the highest level of the game, albeit on the most expensive version with all the perks. I get it. Why remove the early access? You're hiding something. Or you're pretty sure that you're going to need to hide something before the release of this game towards the public. Remember, if you say, oh, okay, let's go check out this game, a lot of people are going to drop their $70 for the regular edition of this game and play it because we know Assassin's Creed. by the time they might figure out that it's shite, it's too late. You've already paid your $70. To an extent, somebody like Ubisoft doesn't really care what you think about the game after you've bought it. You can't return it. We've got your money. And then just move on. And there's other evidence out there like another Assassin's Creed game like Hex, H-E-X-E, I think it's spelled. That's being looked at getting delayed or pulled because that was supposed to be, you guessed it, the gayest Assassin's Creed ever. Sound familiar? Like The Acolyte? It all goes back to this thought that I had and that many others have had is that this company, Ubisoft, has been basically torn to shreds by people like the Guillemot family and Tencent China, because what better way to acquire such valuable intellectual property like Assassin's Creed for pennies on the dollar than making the company who owns it worth squat? Through your own choices, deliberate or otherwise, your own mismanagement, and then you take a $10 billion company and turn it into a $1 billion company. You buy it up for cheap and then try to rebuild it after you've screwed all the other investors. Kind of makes you wonder. Really does. I'm excited to hear what Yves Guillemot has to say on the earnings call next Wednesday on October 30th. I'm so excited. This company is a dump. I would say that this company's the Disney of gaming, but that might even be too cruel towards Disney in some cases. This is a company that has taken all of its intellectual property and just keeps lighting it on fire, keeps lighting money on fire.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.